Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Appraisal Buzzcast. We appreciate all the support as we go through this transition and bring on the next phase of the Appraisal Buzzcast. With me today, I've got Hal Humphreys from Appraiser e-Learning. Hal, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Tickled to be here. I'm Hal Humphreys with Appraiser e-Learning. This is your weekly briefing from Appraiser e-Learning.
And today, for today's Buzzcast, we have Hal Humphreys and we have Barry Lebow, one of Canada's leading real estate personalities. Barry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I hope you understand my accent.
It's a kind accent from what I understand. Barry, thanks so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about your background in this industry.
Well, I'm coming close to finishing my 55th year in real estate. Started as a salesman. We had a law at one time where real estate brokers and could also be mortgage brokers under one license. That got repealed a long time ago. So I had a mortgage division, and the appraisers were terrible. We were getting just horrible appraisals. And I thought, what the hell's about this profession? So in my early 20s, I decided I'm going to start learning about appraisal. And I got an appraisal designation from an association that doesn't exist anymore. And then in around 81, we had a horrible collapse in our market. Mortgage rates at 21.75 prime. Our real estate market collapsed. And I'm sitting there. I was renovating houses. I had a real estate brokerage and everything. I couldn't make a living. And I got a call from a lender. You've been renovating. You got an appraisal designation. I go, I never use it, but can you tell us what it's going to cost to where the house is right now? These houses that the builders have walked away from, what are they worth? I go, yeah, I could do that. So I started $75 appraisals, and I put food on the table for my wife, my 2 kids, a dog, and 2 mortgages. And it was a grind. I was in horrible debt. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, I can't do this as one person. So I started building. Now, I had no real appraisal designation, I had nothing recognized. So in 4 years, I built a large appraisal firm until I joined the Appraisal Institute of Canada, which I was blessed to be a member for 35 years. And I was their spokesman many times on television and radio shows and seminars. And I got into appraisal. I did 30 years my company, which still exists, Lebow Hits. I've got a small role. And I got into stigma big time. I've done thousands of properties that are stigmatized. My guru is Randy Bell, of course, who's the leading guy. And in Canada, I'm about the only ones that do stigma. I sold the practice some years ago. We got up to 33 people on staff. I was all over. I went from $75 appraisals. My last assignment was $1.5 million because I realized that the best thing that ever happened to us, we never had a problem, and we got sued 3 times in 1 week. 3 times in 1 week. All 3 lawsuits were over my appraisal staff not measuring correctly and therefore used the wrong adjustments. We got off on all of them because it turned out we used builders' measurements, and so were all the comps. Thank goodness. And then I got obsessed and I said, what are we making to the office per residential deal? I had my ladies working for me and everybody, timesheets. I got it down to what was the filing cabinet costing me sitting there and the photocopier in square footage on rent. And I sat back. We were doing this, by the way, between the bad year was 4,000, our best year was 5,000 residential appraisals. Okay, grinding them out. We were making between $7 and $8 to the house after everything and before income tax. And I sat back and I went, is this? So I called in my people. They're doing mortgage work. We stopped. We would not do residential mortgage work ever again. Commercial, yes. We devoted ourselves to divorces, relocation, estates. I've testified in over 600 trials, and the money just, one guy went from driving a 10-year-old Granada, if you remember Granadas, to a brand new BMW because our fees just went way up. And all I did when I sold out to my partner, we had 1,500 lawyers on our database. I was out there all the time soliciting. Now, I have a seminar that I've done. I've done it for the ASA program. I did for their annual. I've done it across the Appraisal Institute. Very bad responses from appraisers. It's how to promote your professional designation. Appraisers will work 17, 18 hours a day because they don't want an 8-hour a day job, but they don't realize, they don't care if they're working off their kitchen, they're in their own business. And
Yeah.
appraisers may be good at appraising, but they forget the business. They're lousy business people.
A lot of times they are. So you've been in this business for a minute.
You know what? At 55 years, I know 55% of what I have to know.
Wow, that's crazy.
Hey guys, let's take a quick break for a commercial and we'll be right back.
Considering the sizable economic impact of the golf industry in the US, understanding the economics of golf courses and clubs makes good sense. Golf Property Analysis and Valuation, 2nd edition, will help appraisers and others understand and properly analyse these unique properties. Check out the newest book from Appraisal Institute today.
Barry, thank you so much for being here, and I'm really curious. We teach a couple of courses with appraisery learning on diversifying your practice and getting non-lender work, and the things you were talking about before the break really hit me strongly. A lot of appraisers are so used to doing mortgage lending work, AMC work, and they miss out on a lot of opportunities.
Every attorney, let me ask you a question. I mean, I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're in Kickaman, Alabama. There's a 2-story building or whatever. You go to your dentist. The first thing you got to do is go and see who else is in the building. You see an attorney or an accounting firm, you walk in, you're the only appraiser they've ever met. That's the whole thing. All you have to do is say hello. Here's my card, and if you ever need me, that's it. I just kept knocking doors. Every time I was in a building, here's another thing. Bill Cates, who's the referral coach, great guy to follow. You go to an attorney. You're in the office. They call you in for something. You got to go over it. And you sit there and you walk out. That's the mistake. The in is the lady at the front is a keeper of the gate. She can say no to you. She can't say yes. I can't walk into a law office and say, can I see? That's why I went to small offices, because you can't. But the bigger one. So when I'm in these bigger offices, I just turn around and say, by the way, while I'm here, is there anybody else that's involved in your law firm and real estate that I can meet them? We take you by the hand down the hall. That's what Bill Cates taught me. I never even thought about it. It's a referral coach. It's a fabulous, that opened up everything for me.
It is one of the simplest things you could do as a business person. When you've made your way into the office and you're talking with one person, on the way out the door, talk to the person at the desk and tell them what you do and ask if they know anybody else that needs that kind of work. And here's the thing. Divorce work is a fantastic line of business for real estate appraisers. I know in Tennessee, I probably say 8 times out of 10 at the very least, they settle before they get to a trial phase. So you're probably not going to have to testify.
That's right. Can I stop you right there? Do you mind?
Yeah. No, please.
I'm a kid. I got to testify. I got called in to testify. I'm young. I get down to court that day, and it turns out they had to put me over to the afternoon, but they're paying me for my time by the hour, which is probably 15 cents an hour in those days. Who knows? And I said, what am I going to do? And all of a sudden I realized I don't know how to be a good witness. I went over to these guys with the epaulets and everything that keep the doors, the court clerks, the commissioners, whatever they're called. Is there a real estate action anywhere in this court building? Yeah, there's one up. There's some different. I slip in the back of the courtroom and I watch the experts. And all of a sudden it hit me. I started going down to court. Every time I had to go to courts, if it was the morning, I'd stay in the afternoon, and I'd watch other experts. And I watched how bad some were, and I watched how brilliant some were.
Yeah.
And I became them. I realized, like an old Scottish proverb, least said, easiest mended.
Yeah. And the thing, a lot of appraisers have this fear of getting on the stand. And what I tell everybody, you get on the stand, the attorney that hired you puts you under direct examination, and you might feel like the smartest person in the room, right?
Yeah.
And then you go under cross-examination, and a lot of times you feel like the dumbest person in the county. But then a good attorney that hires you can come back and redirect, or what they call rehabilitate the witness. And you're just a smart guy there to help people understand things. And at the end of the day, a good expert witness is there to help the trier of fact, be it a judge or a jury, understand the issues.
Yeah, I've testified in American courts, but never only electronically over the years. One of the things that there's excellent books. I got excellent books in the library written by judges. What they expect. You write a professional report. You should say, these are the questions the lawyer asked me. Here's my answers, and this is the report that follows and supports it. You put your questions and answers up front right away. How to write the report. The other thing is, I've been on the stand when I would turn red and get beat red, and I don't do that. They say, do you know that your comparable 1 and comparable 5 are the same? And you realize you've made a typing mistake. And I look at it and you go, in the old days, I would have gone, oh, red, and I would have flustered. Now, I just turn and I go, Your Honor, I think I made a mistake. And you know what the judges 99% of the time say? Okay, let's get on with it. Does it impact your bottom line? No, sir, not in the least. Okay, let's get on with it.
And
Make a mistake.
and
That's
the thing
it.
is, and the thing is, if you realize you've made a mistake, the best thing to do is get out in front of it and say, "Oh shoot, I made a mistake." Never, ever try to fix it.
Or dig in. Don't dig in. The worst. We have a thing here. We have in Toronto. It's been going on for years at the law schools, and what we do is once a year, the Appraisal Institute members, a lot of them, volunteer, and we do a trial, mock trial, where it's over an appraisal and a divorce case, and we do one. We go in and we are like the wishy-washy appraiser, and the other one is we're the cocky old timer. We know everything, and they have to cross-examine us, and it's a real dedicated quite time. And some of the guys and gals have actually dug in so bad that the students run out crying.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Here's the thing: doing expert witness work, doing work for attorneys it's high paying.
Hi.
It's and you don't get you don't get a note from the AMC saying appraiser to explain why they didn't do whatever because they didn't read the rest of the report. You don't get a note from a lender saying, please consider these other comparables. What you get is the respect of a professional who hired you as an expert. And the work includes, you've got divorce, you've got estates, you've got
Now, you've got something else. We did a huge business, still do. My old firm still does. Landlord and tenant, when commercial, they're fighting over the rents. There's only a few appraisers that know how to do a proper rent study for arbitration.
Right.
It's extensive, it's expensive, and that's a hearing. It's much easier to be a witness in that.
Yeah.
Much easier, because you're only dealing with facts. They're not ripping you apart. They're trying to get the facts out. Arbitration pays well.
Yeah. And a lot of times in these cases, if you're, and the last one I was going to say is like, if property A damages property B, or there's damage and you've got an insurance dispute over who's going to pay for the damage, 9 times out of 10, they hire an appraiser and to come in and do a before and after value. That's good money.
There is another. What I'm saying is, if somebody's afraid, go take Dale Carnegie, go take Toastmasters, get past that fear. But you have to go down to court. You got to watch people testify. You have to.
The last thing I want to say about court is, when you're in the attorney's office and you're walking out and you hand the receptionist your card, if you're in the hallways in a court of law and you see other lawyers sitting around, great chance to walk up, introduce yourself, tell them what you do, hand out a business card. I've gotten a lot of work by doing that.
The last thing is, if you look at the mortgage lenders of any kind, I don't care if it's the AMCs, I don't care what they are. I don't care if you've got the smallest little credit union that's giving you direct. If you had their pictures of the people you're speaking to, the George or the Camille or even Camille or whoever, the one every week, the players are changing constantly. One young lawyer could be your client for 50 years. They can only give you maybe 4 or 5 a year, but over a lifetime, they give you 100 files. And you
Yeah.
could be building up lawyers and building up lawyers, and it just grows. And you don't have to be at the mercy of these people. And you don't have to work dead. I don't want to even talk about how many great, beautiful July weekends I sat in my office and ground out appraisal reports.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Well, let's take a quick break and go to one of our sponsors, and we'll come right back.
Since 1978, LIA Administrators and Insurance Services has been offering E&O insurance to valuation professionals. LIA applies superior customer service, exceptional liability education from Peter Christensen, and unparalleled claim defence managed by Claudia Gaglioni. LIA offers errors and omissions, commercial bonds, general liability, cyber liability, and real estate agents and brokers E&O. Visit liability.com or call 800 334 0652.
Back here live with Barry Lebow out of Canada. Fantastic conversation so far about alternatives to bank work, which I really love, getting away from the bank work. It's a great way to make business, or to get business and earn a living. High-end homes.
Yeah.
Why would I want to get into that complicated world of high-end homes?
Your deadlines change. I have two seminars. If you go to Barry Lebow TV on YouTube, I have something called Heretic Pricing. I only believe, look at all the books on appraisal. Look at all the textbooks, everything. Those $5,000 adjustments for, the garage versus the carport. I'm looking at houses. One's got 5 fireplaces and one's got 13. You're going to adjust for that properly? And all this other stuff, and the type of marble they put in. And a guy says to me, I got the stuff in from the same quarry in Italy that Michelangelo did his David from, not that crap from Virginia. And I'm going, who knows that? Or whatever. So I teach another seminar to real estate brokers across Canada, and it's called Appraising the High-End Property, Luxury Home. I did it for the Luxury Institute out of Texas, and it is very successful. You cannot do a proper adjustment. You can only bracket. Now, here's the other thing. I'm getting deeper into AI. I'm trying to see if AI can help me. I wrote something today, a simple question. It came back with, I said, how do you clean out a hoarder's house? Just out of something. There were points in there I never even thought about. And I think I'm good at that. And I missed it. I'm wondering if the day comes, but we'll see if that's a challenge, because you can screen that and see if it was your content or it was generated electronically. Okay, leaving that aside. You have to learn how to write a proper narrative report. The form reports work for some purposes, but remember, we go back to the days of paper. Hal, you've been around. Remember, you sell it by the pound. You sell your reports by the pound.
And you print 3 copies of it and bind it with a comb binder, so it's even heavier.
I still have my binder. But leaving that alone, I learned, I was associated with a company we were with an international company. We were the Canadian representatives. They were out of Miami. So I was back and forth all through the States. They had a machine to make gold foil and put the labels on in beautiful embossed. You have to make a good report. It has to be pretty.
Yeah.
You have to have your margins set up beautifully. The font has to just say, the exhibits have to be, it has to look good. And I've had people say to me, you got a visually pretty attractive report. And you know what I keep doing? I keep looking at everybody else's and seeing how I'm going to change it. And it doesn't have to be my report. I can see KPLMG or accounting or something and look at their reports. I look at financial statements. I'm always looking for a better cover, a better font. I'm now settled on Calibri. That's my favorite now, but that's another story. I also sign everything. This is funny. It says right in my reports. I've been doing this for 40 years. I use brown fountain ink, and I have my signature on a not a JPEG, it's something else, and I can embed it. It's in brown ink, and it says if this is not signed in brown ink, this is not an original.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And the thing about high end homes, so, some appraisers I've talked to that have been doing mortgage lending work for a long time are like, but USPAP requires me to adjust my sales. It does not.
Bracketing
USPAP
is interesting.
USPAP allows you to use accepted methodologies
Thank you.
and bracketing, and then doing qualitative adjustments instead of quantitative adjustments
Yeah.
is an accepted methodology. The chance to open up and expand your analytical process by doing high end properties, it sometimes I find it easier than trying to justify a $5,268 adjustment for the difference in one chimney. And seriously, Barry, have you ever talked to someone that bought a house that said, I looked at this house and I looked at the one down the street. The one down the street had two chimneys. This one had three chimneys, and I paid $3,842 more for this one because of the chimney?
The only person that throws me off in my entire career is a retired engineer. They may do it. They may be the guilty party, but that's about it. You're right. By the way, I get very heavy into the cost approach because let me ask you: you're in Nashville.
Yes.
What is the finest neighborhood in all of Nashville? The richest neighborhood?
So there's an area that is widely known as kind of the older gentry neighborhood called Belmead.
Okay, stop right there. That is, now we come to the old thing, which I found it was only coined in 1944 in England. Location, location, location. I dug it. It took me forever to find a source. It was somebody in England in 1944 quoted that. If you wanted to buy a house there and have a beautiful brand new house, you got to buy an old house and tear it down. So therefore, you start with the premise that an old house is worth at least a lot value, at least. But if you're going out in the burbs, here's the problem. Location doesn't count. So I can buy a piece of land. Why should I buy your dictate? Because a custom house or a exclusive house is a dictate. I live this way. I want you should live the way I live. So what do we see? You turn around. You can take the land value. You could say that that house would not cost more than 2, 3, 4, 500 a foot, depending what it is. Therefore, it's not exactly the same, but you've got a ceiling because no one's going to pay more than it's going to be to cost out the house you could build. But in your area where it's built up and the gentry are, they're going to pay just for location and they're going to pay a premium.
Yeah.
So the suburban luxury home is different than the luxury home in a specific first class location. Here's something else I want to say, Hal. Go and tell me. I've gone through the Lum Library. I like the Lum Library. I read it. I dig, especially in my other field in stigma. I've rarely seen any articles on luxury homes and how to appraise them. There aren't that many.
No, there aren't. And here's the thing.
There's no books.
Luxury homes are fun to appraise because you get to look at other luxury homes. You get to see what other people do. And if you get the double whammy of a luxury home owned by, a country music star couple that are going through an acrimonious divorce, then you've got yourself a real moneymaker.
And that's the other thing. You can also, your deadlines change too.
Yeah.
Now you have to. That's the one thing about court. They give you a deadline. You start. But it's not like a mortgage deadline.
Right.
And I love how we have here now. Guys are doing drive-bys on $4 million, $5 million houses. Are you kidding me? Are you for real? By the way, I'm also in a lot of the luxury homes when I'm involved, and there's paying me good fees. A lot of time I recommend I don't want any square footages. I don't want the assessment. I don't want anything unless they've got the original blueprints or whatever you call them to these days. Unless they've got the drawings architecturally, I'm not going to measure myself. You can be out so easily by a few inches one way and around and everything. I get them to pay for floor plans. It's not that expensive.
No, it's not.
It's a great exhibit too for your reports.
It's great for the reports, and it's also a value add for the clients. They actually, if they didn't have the original drawings, now they have an architectural, footprint they can work with for design reasons down the road, whatever. So here's
Also, don't just take pictures, because you will not, if you get dragged into court. I've been using, besides my camera, I don't use I bring a video camera. I video everything, and I keep a library, because if I get called into court, it could be a year later. You don't remember.
Yeah.
So you want to see the video as another walk through the property.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. So we've talked about, alternative ways to do real estate appraisals that you can earn more money, that aren't bank related, that aren't lender related. We've talked about high end properties and how much fun that can be. I'm going to bring Jim in real quick. Jim Morrison. Jim, we've got one more topic on the list, and what is that?
So we have our anonymous appraiser segment. We've been getting a lot of people messaging in. We've been getting a lot of rants. This one may be a little more on the ranty side, but they say everyone wants us to take on trainees to help the appraiser population, but why the hell would I train someone in my area who's just going to be my competition and undercut my fees? So I think let's talk about mentorship though, and how and why somebody should take on a trainee.
How you going to learn? I mean, I was lucky. I mean, I do. I'm a pretty good realtor. I'm in a top echelon in Remax in Canada, and on top of everything else. And I spend most of my time now teaching and giving it away. Why? Because my mentors were generous. I had very amazing appraiser mentors. Look, I'm a kid. I didn't even graduate from high school, and I was in university taking regression and all kinds of analysis and trying to get my through. It was hard for me, and they were there for me, and I would be able to phone them at night and say, "Here's what I'm doing. I'm doing a discounted cash flow, and I've got 22 leases in a mall, and I'm trying to figure it all out, and there's free rents," and they were there for me. So now I'm 76 next week. Guess what? It's give back time. It's mentor. So I had one appraiser reach out to me from Halifax, Nova Scotia, in Canada. Another one reached out to me from Miami, Florida. And I said to the kid in Miami, "Tell me about what you're doing." "I'm grinding it out. I'm going out to do whatever they tell me. I'm doing the mortgage work. I'm burning out a car and a camera, and I'm burning out. And I got a wife and kid, and I'm never home. And I'm home, but I'm not there. I'm physically, but not mentally. I'm not."
Right.
And I said to him, "You seem like you can talk to me. Do you have any trouble talking to me? We never met." He said, "No." I said, "So can you talk to a lawyer, an attorney?" "Yeah." I said, here's your homework. Within 1 week, I want you to go knock on an attorney's door and tell him, introduce yourself. That's all you have to do." I got a call back. I decided to screw up my guts gauge. I spoke to 2 attorneys. I got 2 divorces. The fees are 4 times what I'm getting for a mortgage. The guy ended up doing such a great business. He refuses mortgage work. He ended up back in New York. I was invited to his daughter's wedding. I didn't go. I couldn't make it. And he said, "Barry, because of you, I can afford my daughter's wedding." The person in Halifax, they were doing exactly the same thing, because they listened to me to get out of the mortgage. Somebody has to do mortgage work.
Sure.
But if the mortgage lenders start seeing, hey, there's less and less and less appraisers, they're going to have to start paying more money, make it worthwhile.
The idea of giving back to the industry is it's a strong idea. And obviously I'm a teacher. I love sharing my experience with other appraisers and also learning from other appraisers. In my background, we've literally had this group of appraisers in Nashville that we'll call each other all the time and ask questions, bounce ideas off. And that's just how it works. For those of you out there listening that are saying, and to answer the question, why the hell would I train someone in my area to be my competition? Here's the thing. If you're going to bring on a trainee, there are a couple things you can do. Number one, you can use them well. You can pay them well. treat them well, and then they don't become your competition. And even if they do decide to go out and do their own thing, in the long run, you're both going to be better off being friends and working together. There have been so many appraisers over the years that have brought me under their wings and trained me and helped me learn things that I find it to be kind of a duty for myself. But I've got appraiser friends in South Carolina, young man by the name of Paul Rill, and he brings trainees on. He makes them a trainee under their licensing statute, and he trains them up, and he treats them well, and he pays them well. And guess what? He makes more money too. So it's not just a give back. You can actually, as a business person, bring on a trainee and make more money if you do it right. Barry, thank you so much for being with us today. I cannot thank you enough for your time. Just a pleasure talking to you.
Gentlemen, thank you. And I like I say, I've been in 43 states, in both of yours, and many times. And I'm looking forward to my last 7 states. I still can't figure out that there are people in Wyoming, though. I haven't quite got that in my head.
There aren't that many.
I have a friend that actually left to become an appraiser in Billings. I haven't seen him in years. He listened to me. I was the only guy in Canada did this. I had a motorhome office for my appraisal. I would go look at the property, drive around the corner in a mini motorhome. I would sit and start working on my laptop, which was 30 pounds, and do all my descriptions, get everything organized, and then go on to my next one. And it was a big, people started saying, there's Lebow's Appraisal. My buddy went to Montana. He did the same thing, got a motorhome with a secretary inside it.
Wow.
A rolling office. And it was a gaffe because I'd say to someone, Hal, I'll meet you at the office. Well, I'll give you my address. No, you don't understand. I'll bring my office to you.
I love it. I love it. Well, Barry, thank you. Barry, thank you again. Jim, we got any last things we need to cover?
No, thank you all so much, Barry. I know we're just barely scratching the surface on the conversation with you. We're going to have you back on for sure. That was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's a pleasure. Take care, and let me know when this is ready. I'd like to see it.
Awesome.
We'll do it.
Well, thanks so much to our listeners for joining us. Let us know how this new format's been going for you. Put it in the comments. Subscribe to see where we're going with this thing. And reach out to us at comments@appraisalbuzz.com. Thanks and have a great day.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone. Have good weekend coming up soon. I'm going to Mexico. Bye.
Thank you, guys.